What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, welcome back. It is the unofficial, well, not the unofficial, the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast. We're a little punchy. It's about a little after 2:10 a.m. in the morning. Sooners off a big victory, 59-20 over the Iowa. I'm going to blame George.
Why?
Because George and I were in the other room just screaming at each other, trying to figure out tiebreaker scenarios in the Big 12.
As I was putting in video, though, I kept putting Iowa State. I don't know what it is
they were
about.
playing BYU on the TV.
Very
Maybe
similar
that's what it
score,
was.
59-20, 50-20.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking Iowa State all night. I don't know.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe we're not handling the departure from the Big 12 all that well. Although, the fans clearly are ready to leave after some more PIs of questionable call were handed out tonight. So
that is like as into referees that I've seen in Oklahoma fan base in a long, long time. Like there was a point I was like, as they were going up the section or the tunnel or whatever at halftime, I was like, man, they're getting like bombarded. They're getting yelled at.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. You guys always ask me, like, could you hear that on TV? Because now I'm relegated to the bench. I'm back here watching the games. You could tell through the television tonight how angry that crowd was tonight. And then when it boiled over into the fight in the end zone, and look, here's the thing. I don't think I know that wasn't a malicious hit. I mean, it was a good hit. It wasn't targeting. He didn't, I don't think he intentionally was trying to. It was the standing over that was just kind of ridiculous. And I know you guys said Drake Stoops had something to say about it in the post game that you thought was kind of funny. But look, what a way to go out. I mean, you remember Eddie being in West Virginia during the snow when there was a fight at the 50-yard line before the start of the game, and still one of my most favorite Scoop HD videos of all time is Bob Stoops out there trying to corral everybody at the 50-yard line.
It's just something about West Virginia that always brings out an edginess, a chippiness, and I always kind of thought that it was just Dana Holgorsen letting them to really kind of show their character, or not character, but show their personalities, whatever you want to call it. It was very chippy again tonight, though.
Well, there was one year when Sterling Shepard got into it with them when they were just coming out of their own visitors tunnel, like they were there waiting on him. I can't remember who was with him, but there have just been so many incidents over the years of pregame scuffles and things, and I always enjoyed that about this rivalry. And I think a large part it was because OU largely had their number. I mean, last year was the first year, right, that they beat them. So it was West Virginia hates Oklahoma.
11-1 is what they'll finish against, or excuse me, 10-1 is what they'll finish against West Virginia in the Big 12 series, whatever you want to call it.
Well, and you talked about it, George. I saw where Gabe mentioned it on the Oklahoma Breakdown about the potential for booing if the Sooners came out in a 3-and-out. Fortunately, they did not take the ball to start the game, so that didn't really present itself. Now, after West Virginia had scored 7 on their first series, 4 plays, 75 yards in 4 minutes, Oklahoma comes down and scores 4 plays, 75 yards in like 3.5 minutes. And you thought, are we going to see a shootout tonight? Like, this is what we're in for.
I told Eddie when West Virginia went down and scored, I was like, oh, shit, it's going to be one of those games. And I think I even tweeted out, I was like, it would be very on brand for OU to get its offense finally together, and the defense just sucked tonight. But the defense was great after that first drive. They were fantastic.
Even without Gentry Williams.
They shut them down, and then, I think OU scored touchdowns on 4 of their first 5 possessions and scored on all 5 possessions to start the game.
An incredible offensive performance tonight. 644 yards.
Most this season.
Dillon Gabriel had the 8 touchdowns, school record, and as strange as it may be, felt like he left a lot out there.
He
in the
didn't
first
play
half.
great. Like he
did
missed
not.
some guys on throws.
Maybe the biggest one to me, though, for the third consecutive week, Gavin Sawchuk got going, 22 carries for 135 yards, average 6.1, and you're doing all of this without Tyler Guyton. Jake had the big sack, gave up the sack in the red zone, got beat on the play. But outside of that, I thought Jake Sexton played pretty well tonight.
He is really good in the run game. Super physical.
He's so mean.
His
and he's
feet
such
move
a
well.
big teddy bear guy, but
Yeah.
he is, and that was like one of the first things that I remember telling Josh when I went to a Deer Creek game way back 2 years ago. He is a mean finisher of blocking.
Yeah, no, he's
You look at him and Caden Green over the next 2 years, 3 years, those guys are going to be
they're going to be
incredible.
really good. They're going to be really good up front. But yeah, no, it just felt like they also just got back to what they're good at. They ran the ball really well. They threw it down the field. They were aggressive and they didn't let up. I think that was the biggest thing. It was like they went down and scored right off the bat, but then when they went up 14-7, they just kept scoring. And that was the part we've talked about, the killer instinct. They finally had that tonight. And Lebby talked a little bit about after the game, and he said, it's really simple. It's not complicated, is what he said. We didn't turn the ball over, didn't have pre-snap penalties, didn't get off schedule.
Yeah,
it's like when you do all those things.
It's amazing what happens.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like they purposefully tried to get away from so much no huddle tonight? I mean, they had tempo at times. It's a nice guzzle, Eddie. It's not beer, it's just water.
I am so thirsty.
People don't want to admit it, Carey, but I don't know if you guys know this. Their time of possession this year is way up from where it was a year ago. And I'm not saying it's like in the best in the country, but it's at around 29 minutes per game. Last year it was like 26 minutes. They have been going a lot slower
the ball
this year.
A lot more this year on offense.
That's true, but they also are going slower.
That was something that we talked about.
They
with
chewed
Jay
clock in the second
on
half.
the opponent preview. That was something that we talked about on the unofficial 40. How West Virginia just gets the ball and it seems like you never get the ball back. How important each possession was going to be offensively. Final time of possession tonight. Do you guys know it?
Yeah, I've already seen it.
don't.
Yeah.
30 minutes, 32 seconds for West Virginia. 29 minutes, 28 seconds for OU.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and
a
look-
lot of that, damn near 9 minutes of that comes in the fourth quarter for Oklahoma. So,
Well, and that was another surprising thing is Davis Bevel went in the game tonight, and you were expecting Jackson Arnold. And after the game, both Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby said, we're going to redshirt him. That's our plan if we can.
which, if things were to go as planned, it shouldn't matter if he has a
Right,
redshirt year. But I guess it's a good thing. I thought something else that was really important tonight. OU ends up finishing 8 for 14 on third down. 2 of those really don't count to me because they were the 2 final possessions. 8 for 12 at one point during the game. And the flip side of that, West Virginia was 4 for 16 today.
Well, and another big surprise, not surprise, but something we talked about a lot during the week and a lot of people asked us about is Kip Lewis getting the start tonight. I mean, it was interesting that Brent Venables was, you think of him kind of nurturing the young Jaren Kanak and, not wanting to get in his head. No, none of that. He was like, Kip Lewis has been our best linebacker next to Danny Stutsman. So we're starting him tonight.
He was awesome too tonight. He was really good. Did he end up leading the team in tackles, or was it Stutsman? They were going back and forth. What was the final stat line?
Stutsman had 8. Kip Lewis had 7.
Yeah.
Which I think 4 people had. Billy Bowman, Robert Spears Jennings, really good tonight, and Kip Lewis all had 7 tackles.
Robert Spears Jennings started.
Yeah, he played well.
Yeah.
He played well. 8 tackles for loss tonight as well, which,
They didn't have one last week, right?
Yeah, they didn't have one. They had 2 sacks tonight. It was a... no, they did not.
Well, you guys know...
I take that back. 0 sacks.
I had talked about it some during the week.
Pass breakups.
And we talked about just how much easier it can be on the defense when you score when you're up by 7, when you extend a lead. And tonight you saw that. I mean,
well, they took West Virginia. West Virginia wants to run the football.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got down 2 scores, they couldn't run the football because they had to catch up. And Garrett Green, who I think is a nice player for West Virginia, but he can't throw the ball down the field.
No.
And it just killed him.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you got them out of their comfort zone, which they had to try and catch up. And Oklahoma was great against the run game. I think, playing that Kansas team, I know, you heard, I think we asked Trace Ford about that last week. How similar is this to Kansas? Because they are a run. He said a lot of the stuff they do is very similar. So I think, everybody trusted their eyes. They didn't look at the wrong things.
You notice the defense, they correct their mistakes pretty. Like, there was a play that Brent referenced in the post game.
He yelled at Danny on the sideline.
Yes, but there was a play that he referenced. He goes, last week they got beat on a wheel route against Oklahoma State for, I think, a huge gain.
Yeah, it was
West Virginia ran the same play tonight, and they broke it up, and it was no problem. And that's the stuff you're like, that's the growth that you're seeing within this team and the program. But like, you see, it seems like every week you see that where a defense wasn't good at something one week, and the next week they've cleaned it up. The offense is the story of the night because they finally figured their shit out. But the defense was once again phenomenal.
Yeah, they played really, really well. And I think that it was something that we talked about on Instant Reaction, not to get like too much into the future and next season or the seasons after, but you have a lot of really young guys making a lot of plays out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't remember if you said anything. It's late. I think I blacked out.
I'm delusional.
I can tell. Everybody's a little punchy.
Especially after we did the you and me started doing the Big 12 tiebreaker scenarios.
Hey, but you're here now. Like, we've gotten to the point where you can start talking about, okay, this needs to happen or this needs to happen because you got some help from Kansas today, or I guess from Texas Tech, getting beat or beating Kansas. And then, the Texas game's interesting with the way that they played in the fourth quarter, the Jonathan Brooks news. That's all of a sudden become a really, really even more interesting game in Ames next weekend.
And that's the most, we probably need to keep talking about the West Virginia game, but just
we'll get into it. Let's break everybody's brains after.
I was just going to say the easiest way to get there is Texas losing again.
Sure.
Right. That almost assures you. If they lose to Iowa State, Oklahoma's going to play. If they win out, it's going to play. And let's face it, guys. You have 2 weeks. Everybody's down. Nobody's on the website. The traffic. Took a. That's all I care about usually. The traffic took a real downturn. You could tell that the fans just weren't into it. They were pissed off that a lot of people didn't even want to read anything about Oklahoma or watch anything about Oklahoma. And now you go out there and play this game. You've got BYU, an 11 o'clock game, a 10 a.m. game coming up next week.
It's just it's. Can we do one?
Yeah, go ahead.
You Big 12. Like, it's such a kick in the balls to go out there and play at 10 a.m. next week. It's almost borderline unacceptable with as much as Oklahoma's given them to get the middle finger like they have. Like the pass interference call in the end zone was just complete bullshit.
On Kanai Walker?
Yes,
that was a really bad call.
And I thought the one on Woody was pretty bad too. I think Josh took exception with us saying that it wasn't. And George had I remember you had a very strong.
I just simply said it was a bullshit call.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I've just let it rip on Twitter. But what did we expect though, Eddie?
Eddie is
you've just drank so much water.
You are now traveling with
thirsty.
him, so you know what that throat of his does when he just guzzles water.
And you don't see it. He doesn't drink that much water.
You don't drink it.
I know. I'm just
it's because
thirsty.
you don't drink enough of it, and then you just all of a sudden you're like,
well, they don't have any water on the sidelines.
You need to start carrying around a half-gallon thing like me.
I don't have any room in the carry cart to take a water bottle.
Why is it the carry cart?
I could. Well, no, like carrying cart.
Okay, like I make you. Carry
I couldn't think of what
cart.
to call it. The cart thing came after I said the carry thing.
He's on his second cart right now.
This thing's a beast, though.
Okay, good.
It's a beast of a cart.
I knew that this always happens with Eddie. Like if something breaks and he can still use it, we went over it with his laptop. Like I had to one day use his cart, and I hadn't been using it, and I could barely pull it. It was the wheels were so bad, it was like pulling against you. I was like, dude,
this thing's a beast.
So we got him a really good
You
one.
can go all over the place with it.
No, but back to the game and just kind of the things that stood out. obviously, I mean, I thought maybe too much was made out of it in the post game because I still think you see a lot of lumbering from him out there. But Austin Stogner had a good night.
Does it open up the offense a little bit though? Does it spread things out? No.
I mean, I'm not buying in that Austin Stogner all of a sudden is going to be this like
I don't
weapon for this team.
Yeah, I don't think that he.
I mean,
like,
a big chunk of it came on a broken play.
Sure.
Where Dillon makes a great play, escaping a sack, and
35 yards.
They just cut Austin loose.
But if he can give you 4 for 70, he had 4 for 69.
I thought the best play was
4
when
for 70. I thought he was going to be a red zone target.
Yeah. I thought the best play to him tonight was the 4th and 5 to him. They converted a 4th and 5, and he made a contested catch. That's where they could use him. Short yardage, like you said, red zone.
Sure.
The touchdown tonight, I thought that we'd see more of that kind of stuff. So maybe they can use him, but like I don't think all of a sudden he's going to become some great, weapon for this team.
No, he is what he is. I mean, it was good though because you didn't have Blake Smith tonight, and he had one of those plays on the sideline where somebody chopped out his legs, and you thought maybe he might be hurt.
I'll tell you too. Number 80, Josh. I don't know how to say his last name. Fanul. He had some really nice blocks in the run game tonight. He got called for the one holding call, but he blocked his ass off tonight. I wonder if they use him a little bit more going forward.
I think a lot of people, it's natural. You're going to watch this game tonight. You're going to see that Dillon Gabriel had 3 rushing touchdowns. You're going to see what John Rice Plumlee did to Oklahoma State today. And Dillon was asked about it in the post game about running it, and he said, "Just trying to get my little ass in the end zone or whatever." But
every guy that came in and talked was like, you could just tell they needed this shit.
Yeah, but they could have used that last week, and I hate to just harp
Now,
on
I
that
will
stuff.
say, the 3 touchdowns, 2 of them at least were just 2-yarders.
Right.
But at the same
on
time,
3rd and goal. They were both on 3rd and goal.
But at the same time, he did have a couple runs today that it just seemed like it came within the flow of the offense. I think there was one in the
He had
third
one
quarter.
where he really read it right. Like he pulled it and he went off.
Well, there's the one where it was middle of the field, and maybe that wasn't the Finet hold, but it was just a design quarterback draw, and he just kind of like stood there, like you could tell he was getting ready to run, and that was one of his best runs of the night. And at the same time, like he was getting down when he needed. He still goes head first way too much. I mean, Jackson Arnold just watch out.
There was one of them that it was right after the fight in the north end zone after the Drake Stoops touchdown, and he got up talking shit, and you could just tell like there was nothing that was going to make him or stop him from putting a shoulder down into somebody on that play.
Funny story. So after the game, I went to Neil Brown's press conference.
Mm-hmm. Head coach for West Virginia.
Yes, and I don't know if this gentleman he works for West Virginia or is just like a fanboy media guy, but he was talking about Dillon Gabriel, and he's like, that was the most dumbass shit I've ever seen, them running Dillon Gabriel at the end of the game because they wanted him to break the record for touchdowns by a quarterback or something. And I was just like, I don't think that's why. They're like I was like, I don't think that's what was going on. They're like, why didn't they play that Jackson Arnold kid? And I was like, because I think they're redshirting him.
Deputy Commissioner of the Big 12, that former K-State guy.
I don't know, but he was just ripping. He was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They're gonna get that kid hurt running him that much. And I was just like, I don't know,
maybe
man.
You're in the movie Hoosiers there for just a little bit.
Yes.
By the way, Drake Stoops. I mean, we haven't even mentioned. I mean, just the last 2 games, unbelievable.
Gamer.
I mean, I think you said it best. You tweeted it best after the video came out from Monday night in the post-practice session when he gave kind of that impassioned, take on what Oklahoma football means to him. But he is like the total package of if you want to put a player out there and say, like, this is what represents Brent Venables' program, it's Drake Stoops.
He's going to win the Don Key Award, right?
I would think so.
That's a couple weeks away,
but
I was thinking about it tonight.
It's become
like
a group award,
a trio or a quadrant.
It's a long
of
time
guys.
since. I think I would love to see him just win it by himself, though. But you got guys like Woody Washington that are probably deserving.
Sure.
What's his yardage up to this year? He's gonna lead the team in receiving yards. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, he had a career night tonight. Is that right, too, that the 164, that's the most receiving yards by a single player in like 40 years? That's what Brent said after the game.
I don't know.
That doesn't sound right.
I mean,
CeeDee
Mark
Lamb
Clayton,
had some
CeeDee Lamb.
games.
That's what I thought.
Hold on, let me look.
Here, I'm looking right now. No, the game notes don't have anything about that being the most yards, but so I don't really know what Brent was talking about. But he was unbelievable, and what he's done over the last 2 weeks, it gets overshadowed last week because of the loss. But what's he have? He has 22 grabs for like 3-something over the last 2 weeks. 164 tonight. He had.
CeeDee Lamb had like 6 games over 164.
Okay.
So
I don't know what he was talking about then.
yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyway,
Drake has been great. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been absolutely phenomenal.
well, and I think what he said Monday is something that kind of became. I think it will become kind of legendary for this team, but for the entire locker room, like that, everyone knew that was said. Like we were talking to Trace Ford, and he was like, "We all heard that, and it all fired us up, and we all feel the same way." But he's the one that said it out loud, and it is kind of like how it goes. Sometimes, it was a question that was asked him, like, "What's left to play for?" Sometimes you just kind of want to ask those kind of incendiary questions just to get a response out of somebody. I don't know if that was really the intent behind that.
I don't think it was.
I don't, but I'm glad that the question ended up being asked because it was just a fantastic response.
Yeah, that should be like on like flyers,
Like busting with the
for OU
boys,
football.
we're like
Yeah,
retweeting that.
Just be on a
and stuff.
T-shirt.
it's a total OU like great quote. It's just a great moment.
We
It
might
was-
need to make T-shirts.
It was
You the one
spawned
that
out of a
put
terrible
that
idea, but
wrestling poster was hanging up in your room.
Me?
No, I can't remember who that was.
I don't know.
Oh, it was a musician I follow locally. He had this anyway. I'll show it to you after the show. But no, and here's the other thing about tonight's game, which it's not just tonight; it's happened throughout the season. But Eddie, this is a better question for you than George because you've been around a little bit longer. Whoever thought that OU would have a defense capable of multiple goal line stops like this defense?
It's crazy. They've now done it 3 weeks this year where they've gone and somebody's gotten first and goal from I think it started at the 3-yard line this week, and they just bite down.
amazing.
Like you can tell too, like talking to Danny after the game. George, I think you asked him about it. Like that is a very prideful thing. And I mean, it's a complete Brent Venables like talking point, I'm sure, but I bet they get more enjoyment out of that than they do winning by 39.
Yeah, and like that's where the interior defensive line, which we've brought up the last couple weeks,
sure.
they were really good. DJ Terry, I think, was in on a couple of those.
Yeah, it
Isaiah
seemed like
Coe.
Terry had a really good night.
Yeah, they were really solid. It was interesting. Neil Brown was saying after the game, he was complaining that, and I thought it was a good point, they didn't have a camera view of the goal line.
Yeah,
tonight.
I noticed they didn't have a pylon
Because he
cam.
was saying
Does
that
ESPN like trademarked
he
that,
thought
and they only have the pylon cam.
he thought they got in on first and second down.
See, I didn't ever
but-
think it was that close.
But the officials told him, they said that they didn't have a goal line camera or a pylon cam. And he's like, Neil Brown was like, how is that possible for a nationally televised game? And I was kind of like, I think he's right. That's a good point. But yeah, no, they were really good down there. It's almost like they thrive on it. And it embodies how good the defense is. Just
was that Samuel Omosigo that was coming into in place?
yes,
of,
he played
Kendall Dolby?
Cheetah tonight. Yeah, but
because Deshaun McCullough was out.
it's crazy how good OU's defense has been in just all short yardage situations. Think even last week against Bedlam, what was it,
They had
like
a
3
4th and
4th and
one.
ones that they stopped?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's ridiculous how good they are.
And it's not just, I mean, obviously it's guys like DJ Terry and those interior guys blocking things up, but it's a safety coming down, or it's Kendall Dolby coming down, or it's Woody Washington coming in to make a play.
And a large part of it's the linebackers.
Sure.
Their linebackers. I mean, I was trying to
Toby
think during
McKenzie
the
played
game.
well. All 4 of those guys.
When's the last time you mentioned? When's the last time OU had a defense that could get a goal line stand? When was the last time OU had 4 middle linebackers that you're like, all 4 of those guys are pretty solid?
I mean, if they can get that entire
I'm
group
going
to
to
come
answer
back.
that question right now. It has never happened. Never. It's in the 20 years I've covered Oklahoma. And the Bob Soup, they've
Let me
never
ask you
had
this then:
four linebackers.
When's the last time they had a duo as good as Danny Stutsman and Kip Lewis? At least potential to be as good as they are or will be.
I mean,
Would have been somebody with Travis.
I was thinking like if Austin Box would have, lived up to his potential and stayed healthy, he and Travis Lewis were going to be like potentially kind of like Rocky Kalma's Torrance Marshall territory. I mean, Teddy Lehman, he had Rocky for a year, I want to say.
It's pretty cool that Rocky's down there a lot nowadays.
But think about the group we're talking about. Like if they're in
Lance
that
Mitchell,
talk,
was that Teddy's? Was that his running mate a little bit, I think? Or he might have come in after Teddy was gone.
but that's how good they are. Yeah. That's how. I mean, that's
Real.
we're
Think
talking
about the names you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's unbelievable how good they are at that spot.
And it feels like for at least 3 of the 4, they're still incredibly young. I mean, they haven't even played double-digit games as true starters. I thought Kobe McKenzie came in and played well. We talked about the instant reaction.
How about Kanak?
Kanak was
played
great
really
in the
well.
second half.
Kanak, that's another guy.
Was clearly getting benched, so to say. I mean, had a big effect on him because he came in and played with his hair on fire.
Yeah, I thought he played really well. And I mean, again,
Might be the best thing that's ever happened to Jaren.
Yeah.
Could be.
Getting benched.
Yeah. And think if Danny comes back next year, how good they're going to be really good at linebacker if Danny
I know
comes
it's still
back.
way, way too early to like say one way or the other, but it kind of seems like
It's not way too
as
early 'cause
close
there's only 2 weeks
as
left.
close as he is with everybody. I think that the idea of being left off the Buckus semifinalist list, stuff like that.
Did anybody ask him about that tonight?
No,
That's a miss on my part. I should have asked that. Even though he wouldn't have said anything.
no,
But
he would have said something about the team, and
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that if he was leaning one way or the other, he's probably leaning towards coming back.
yeah,
And I don't even know if it's really that big of a decision to make.
to
be honest.
He was funny tonight post game when I asked him about how close he was to playing last week. He's like, not even. He's like, I was never playing in the game last week is what he said.
By the way, just real quick, Bob Przbillo in his notebook. By the way, always check out our coverage on Sooner Scoop. Before we do the podcast, we are getting up content for you guys, for our subscribers. So we want you guys to have the information as quickly as we can get it out there. Bob Przbillo in his notebook tonight did cover some of the injuries. Starting right tackle Tyler Guyton was out with a concussion. I talked to some people kind of closer to game time, and they said that, they knew he wasn't going to be able to play like on Thursday, but they felt like that would be something like if Jacob Sexton, if West Virginia found out Jacob Sexton was to start with their kind of experience and talent on the edges, that they could really attack that. So it was really kept under wraps. But Deshaun McCullough, that Brent sounded like it was more like precautionary, like, hey, we want to give him some more time to recover. So Kendall Dolby played well tonight, and as you mentioned, Samuel Masigo came in and played a little bit. And so Jacob Sextonfield and Gentry Williams did not play tonight.
He was suited up, though, and went through warm-ups.
Okay. But, Kenai Walker did a nice job. I mean, it helps, like you said, that Garrett Green's not that great of a thrower. He did have one, which we'll say, just a bullshit pass interference call on him. So outside of that, I can't remember, guys, there wasn't any really big... anything that looks serious with anybody going down. It just
I would also add to that. I think they anticipate Guyton and McCullough being available next week. I would also maybe even throw Gentry in there. Gentry's hard because it's like he's just.
Well, it can go bad on one hit.
And he was wearing. I'm pretty sure it's his shoulder that he's dealing with now.
Well, Brent said last week, when it pops out, it just takes him a while to get back.
He was wearing a thing on his right shoulder tonight, so
he sounds like the perfect cleanup surgery candidate after the season's over.
Yeah, I would think so.
And he just plays so fierce. I mean, the way we've talked about how much he tackles and how fierce he is, it's obviously just taking a toll on his body.
Yeah.
Okay, so got that out of the way. Sooners go to BYU next. BYU is not looking very good. But is there anything else that you really wanted to hit on the team before we put everybody's brains in a blender talking Big 12?
I still can't figure out Jaden Gibson.
yeah.
Like, and it might be more of the offense. Like, I thought Nick Anderson had a nice bounce back after the drop pass last week. Offensively, though, and what Jeff Lebby, I know that we hit on it, but I thought he had a really good game. Like, we got to give him credit. I know that we really went in on him last week, but it's about the exact opposite tonight. It was really good. That's the type of offense that I think a lot of people expected.
How about this? Is it the best play calling performance of his career at Oklahoma?
I thought Iowa State was pretty good.
Yeah.
They scored 59 in that one as well, though.
50.
It's
50?
the best complementary football we've seen between the offense and defense since
That's
he's
fair.
arrived.
But I would put it in the category of best game he's called. As an
Was this the
offensive
best
coordinator.
4 quarters OU's played this year? I mean, because they played.
Given the opponent.
Yeah, well, they played better
Scoring on 4 of the first 5
tonight
drives.
than they did at the Cotton Bowl. The special teams and all that shit down at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, no. You go back, you watch the Cotton Bowl.
Special teams weren't great tonight.
And the offense was inconsistent in that game.
I'm not really sure what's going on with Gavin back there at punt return. Like, you got to clean that shit up, though.
I think he's thinking too much.
I know people are saying, well, Kanak got blocked into him. He definitely muffed that before.
He dropped it,
out there.
before,
And then he muffed another one that he thankfully recovered.
That one, it seemed like it was like, oh shit, and then he dropped it.
I'm at the point, and I love Gavin. I think he's great, but
You're just afraid of Jason.
I would maybe just put Drake back there and just say fair catch it, because he's going to catch it.
Well, I mean, they could put Farouk back there, but I think they just kind of want to take. By the way, Farouk
LV Bunkley Shelton's been the guy when they've gone to quote unquote number 2.
And I don't know if anybody realized this. I'm pretty sure Andrell Anthony was the backup punt returner before he got hurt. So I don't know who the backup is now.
Bunkley Shelton.
Yeah,
he went out
muffed
there
it too.
Yeah, he was out.
Was
there,
that was in
last week
Stillwater.
and he
Yeah,
muffed
last
it.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think though that like if Gavin went down, I think they'd put not Freeman. They'd put Stoops back there.
By the way, I'll say this about tonight. I really liked that it seemed like the first game where Nick Anderson is kind of working on being a better receiver instead of just a deep threat.
Yeah,
and I think you say what's up with Jaden Gibson. I think that's what's up with Jaden Gibson. He's a guy that knows how to run down the field and jump up and high point a ball and bring it in. He doesn't really know how to read coverages and get into zones. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Andrell Anthony was good at, knowing spacing and how to cut off his route. And I felt like we saw a little bit more maturity from Nick Anderson in his route running tonight.
Nick Anderson makes some really comfortable catches in uncomfortable spots on the field, right over the middle. And for a guy that young to do that and then be able to turn up and get upfield and get a lot of yards after the catch, it's kind of exciting. It kind of makes you wonder what he could turn into.
Do you think Farouk will come back?
I really don't know.
I think Tyler Guyton is gone. I think Farouk is on the fence.
You think he's gone?
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. You can't. I mean, look, the projections.
He's like 16 in Mel Kiper's.
Yeah, and he's going to just
draft
keep going up.
now.
And I think he's going to test really well. And I know
So
everybody's
maybe
like,
he could sneak it into the top 10, you think?
I think so because
Yes.
he like everybody's like, well, he could come back and be a top 10 pick if he goes and he tests well.
Yeah.
he'll jump into the top 10.
Which he's going to.
You know what else helps him is Anton Harrison's playing really well in the
Yeah,
league.
playing a lot for the Jags. He's
they
starting for
kind
the
of-
Jags, I
they
think.
kind of
That's what's crazy.
mirror each
Bill
other a little
Bedenbaugh
bit.
might have 2 back-to-back first-round picks on the offensive line, but for some reason, like
Nobody really gave him all the pomp and circumstance.
We'll talk to Josh about it, but Grant Bricks was in the stadium tonight.
Right.
I'm sure that was a really good atmosphere.
Nebraska
to,
lost today.
Kind of come on, Nebraska. Like,
Jesus.
you can't get beat in Lincoln to Maryland. You can't lose to Maryland.
I was going to say, you mentioned
not
the
going well.
good atmosphere. Great crowd tonight. Given the last
Very
2
good
weeks,
crowd.
shout out to the fan base for showing up tonight. I think the attendance was 83,000 something. A lot of them stuck around for most of the game.
Yeah. It was a great crowd.
Yeah.
I thought it was in it. I thought it got
They were
loud
into
at
it.
times.
Yeah.
The SEC chants were awesome, as we said. It was a fun night at the Palace.
Thought the refs might die at one point. It was very impressive.
I mean, they walked up that tunnel, and there were people like hanging over the tunnel. Like, I was like, please don't throw anything.
Dad
Please
made
don't throw anything.
My dad made a good point. He said he thinks, because I was like, look, I don't buy in that the Big 12's just screwing OU. I said, I just think officials just aren't as good as they used to be. And he said, he says he thinks they're not athletic enough. He says they can't get in position to see what they need to see.
By the way,
That's the.
That's what
it
happened.
might be true.
That's
but
what happened
the
with
most
the Drake Stoops
dad
thing.
comment of all time.
I know.
That's something I could see my dad saying.
By the way, I don't know if you guys where you were yet, but I was watching the OSU UCF game, and that exact penalty to Drake Stoops happened, and the officials called it, and it wasn't nearly as egregious. And I think someone made a joke about during tonight's broadcast about.
Yeah, apparently did it on the broadcast.
Yeah, he did it on the broadcast tonight about you might get a different call about 80 miles north of here,
right?
On a pass interference call during the game. So, look, I just want everybody to calm down. Like, I realize how bad it's gotten, and the refs have done nothing to help themselves. It's like Eddie and I have been through this, like with OSSAA referees and stuff, and Bob's definitely been through it. But like the business of finding referees is very difficult at the high school level. I'm sure it's gonna, they pay them, but not like NFL referees.
Yeah.
Like I know there have been a lot of people in the pros that have said they need to make sure that these are full-time jobs that people have.
Why would you want to be an official? I've never understood the want.
Eddie and I have both. Eddie's done it more than I have, but we both umpired Little League.
But that's different.
But it's
than
awful.
Yeah.
Like it's the worst. Like it is. I quit doing it because if you know how to play a sport and you referee it, and you have to listen to people from the peanut gallery tell you how the sport's supposed to be played when you know how it's supposed to be played, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, like that's the most annoying thing that I've ever experienced. And I did it for a couple of summers. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So
I loved umpiring.
I do think though, Eddie and I,
It was so much fun.
Eddie and I should go down. Let's say OU doesn't make the Big 12 title game. Maybe instead of going down to Dallas to cover that week, we should go down and just
Irving.
bang on Brett Yormark's office and
Make
do
a
TMZ.
real big scene on the
I
way
do think a
out.
TMZ type live video of just like bombard him. as
I
he
think
gets
we
out.
should just do
What
it.
if he was like really nice and was like, "You guys want to go to Harry Hines? Let's go over."
Oh, I think we'd go with him.
Yeah.
What if he was? What if you get there and you find out that Brett Yormark is never in his office and he doesn't live here, and the only time he shows up is to go to games and to
Root
banquets
against
and stuff?
OU in Texas.
Yeah, he just lives in New York.
I will say he was in Lawrence and Stillwater the last 2 weeks when OU lost. Interesting.
I bet he won't be in Austin for that Texas Tech finale.
Well, he said he was. I don't want him to lie. He told the Tech people that he was going to be there.
I don't think he would. I mean, like the refs, you'd be worried about his safety getting in and out of there.
Yeah, you might. Or he might have to.
All right, so Oklahoma wins at 59-20.
All right, let's get. What are these
man.
scenarios? Break my brain real quick. The easiest thing, as George said, the easiest thing for Oklahoma to get into the Big 12 championship, you win out,
Right.
and Texas loses on Saturday
To
and
Iowa
ends.
State. It needs to be to Iowa State, though.
Does it? I thought they.
Well,
just-
I mean, it
they
does
just need to
until
lose the
Kansas
game.
State plays them.
They already played Kansas State.
Or Kansas. They play. Iowa State finishes. No,
They already
Kansas
played
State
Kansas.
finishes
They
with
just need
Iowa
Texas
State
to lose a
and
game.
Kansas.
It does not
Right.
matter to who.
Kansas, so here's the thing. It's Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma State. As long as Texas is number one with one loss, then it becomes a tie. Right now, the tiebreaker candidates are Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Those are the only.
No. Iowa State's out of it.
Well,
Iowa
if Texas wins out,
Even if they don't
then
win
Iowa
out.
State is out of it.
Iowa State's out of it no matter what. They have 3 losses in conference play.
Right now, they do.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
That's right. Anyway,
Here's the scenario that everybody wants to know about. If Texas wins out, OU wins out, OSU wins out, and K-State wins out, you have a 3-way tie between OU, Kansas State, and OSU.
it does not favor OU.
And it does not favor OSU. Despite OSU beating both Kansas State and OU, the issue is the tiebreaker goes to if all three have not played each other, there's not a common head-to-head.
It keeps going further
It
down.
goes to who have they commonly played, and K-State will have beaten all the teams that had
UCF.
They had beaten UCF, Iowa State, and Kansas.
Right.
And they would have gone 3-0. OU would have gone 2-1 against those three teams.
Iowa State does have 2 losses.
Oh, they do? Well, then I don't know.
See, this is why I was yelling at you in the room.
This is the standings. Texas is 6-1. OSU, OU, Kansas State, Iowa State are all 5-2.
Right.
West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Kansas are all 4-3, and everybody else.
Well, and here's what happens. So everyone that has the same record goes into the same pool, and it turns into, okay, who has the best record? Well, did all of these teams play each other? Then it goes to what George is talking about.
And that's why OSU would get screwed. OSU would be getting royally screwed if it somehow is a 3-way tie between OU, OSU, and Kansas State, because they have beaten both Kansas State and OU, and you'd think they would get in, but since they all three didn't play each other,
right,
it goes to the next tiebreaker.
You go down to the Iowa State and the UCF.
Correct.
I can't remember who else it was.
Texas's final schedule, they have Iowa State and Tech.
Yes.
OSU has Houston and BYU. OU has BYU, TCU. Kansas State has at Kansas, Iowa State, and then Iowa State has Texas and K-State.
And K-State, yeah. It's very tough for Iowa State to make it. I mean, I think you have to favor Kansas State being in it. But the problem is, if you get Texas in the team of tied teams, it favors Oklahoma. And they'll get there. But if Texas is above everybody else and they're fighting with OU, Kansas State, Iowa State,
I think you're rooting for Iowa State to win out, because if Iowa State wins out, OU would have the tiebreaker over Iowa State, and that would eliminate.
And they would have it over Oklahoma State,
and they'd also have it over Texas, and then Kansas State would be out of it, because the team that you don't want to have a tiebreaker with right now, if you're Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure is Kansas State.
Right.
Well, or Oklahoma State, because they won head-to-head.
Right. But if it's
just two teams left standing, it's just head-to-head. So OU and OSU, if they're
I'm going to email the Big 12 and get an answer.
Lose tomorrow. next week.
That's probably the only week.
But Houston, I think, has probably checked it in.
If OSU loses to Houston or BYU, then
they play like
they are who we thought
they play
were.
like the way that they did today in Houston next week. It will be a close game. Now they could play like shit and still win.
By the way, we've got a lot of traveling coming up. Eskridge Lexus, the official travel sponsor of the post-game show. Want to remind you guys, go check them out at eskridgelexus.com. Ed and the boys, Ed and Will, they'll take care of you. They've done it for many of our listeners and subscribers. And they've got right now the new TX series that's in. It's a great car for you guys. I know the third row SUVs is the biggest SUV that Lexus has ever had. They're arriving now. It's a perfect family SUV for taking all your stuff to the next tailgate, road trip, whatever. Mention to them that you are a Sooner Scoop subscriber, and Eskridge Lexus will offer you a special discount on any new or pre-owned vehicles. And let me tell you why this is so big. They don't mess around with their pricing. They're not gouging people. They're not charging over MSRP. There's no bogus charges like dock fees. They don't force you to add accessories that you don't want. They're going to give you money off their best deals that their best customers get just for being a Sooner Scoop subscriber or a listener. Call or visit eskridgelexus.com, and they'll take care of you just like they always take care of us. Eddie and I both proud drivers of Eskridge Lexus vehicles. Really don't think I'll ever have it any other way.
Yeah, they're great. Absolutely phenomenal service as well.
Yeah, take care of you. Of course, Eddie's a celebrity, so he gets better service than everybody else.
No, that's probably right. Probably deserved as well.
We've had a lot of banging on the doors tonight. A lot of people trying to come in. So
after
people are excited.
Yeah, the vibes were strong tonight. The vibes were strong after giving up 400.
By the way, were you okay in the scuffle? People were worried about you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was on the other side of it. I was on like the
unfortunately.
Well, fortunately, unfortunately. Fortunately, unfortunate. That's I wish I would have been closer.
If I found out someone broke the current camera, there would have been hell to pay for somebody. I mean,
West Virginia would not have gotten on that flight back home.
I might have rigged their plane or something. Break that camera.
Easy.
Anyway, I have no idea what that even is. I don't know.
Sounds like terrorism. It sounds like you just threatened terrorism. After giving up 443 yards tonight, I did see this from Kalani Sitake, the BYU head coach. It said on the issues with the defense, quote, I'll have better answers on Monday, but my first thought right now, guys, not believing in the system and not believing in what we're doing.
That doesn't seem good. Ooh. That's going to be an interesting atmosphere on Saturday in terms of 10 a.m. kick, not a very good football team. Like, I think BYU fans will show up, but it won't be the same as like before the season. I was like, man, they're going to play at 8 o'clock at night. That place is going to be buzzing. It's not the same atmosphere, I don't think.
Look, there is not like some big momentum change with this win tonight, but I'm going to tell you, I mean, OU fans have never been able to understand what OSU fans are going through better than they do right now, because Mike Gundy got up in there and said, we're moving on, we're moving forward, we're not thinking about the last game. It's impossible in this day and age, I think, with social media and with people on campus, and it's always been bad there, but I don't think there's an answer if you have just like a season-defining program win that, like, with Texas and OU, it completely changed everyone's expectations to, oh my God, we're back. We're going to make it to the CFP. Like, look at Lincoln Riley and USC, and they're imploding, and everyone celebrated so hard. And look, I'm not one of these people that blames the Stutsman t-shirt. He made a lot of money. He should have. I mean, I love it when they get those little flash sales and people get to make a whole bunch of money. I think that's what fandom is for. That's how it pays off if you work so hard to play. But that's just one of the little things that added to the celebration. All of the slaps on the back, everyone going on social media. Now they can go to work and fight with their coworkers who went to OSU. I'm not saying I feel bad, but just imagine being an OSU fan right now. Like, you just had the best win. One of the best things that ever happened to you being an OSU fan is beating OU on your field for the last Bedlam, and then you realize, oh God, wait, that's going to affect the next game. This is what coaches are so worried about.
They just went and got their ass kicked today.
It was awful.
It was
embarrassing.
21-0, literally before it even got underway.
Maybe Robert Allen will drop some F-bombs in his post-game pod.
That'd be great. I think that'd be great.
I'd tune in to listen to that.
I would too. He was very upset on the broadcast.
I was told that on the broadcast he kept saying, Central Florida let Baylor back in the game. Baylor back in the game.
He kept saying that because I was listening on my drive in, and I was like, oh, Robert.
Man.
It wasn't
Orlando.
a pouring monsoon when they played.
God. And so did they forget the equipment stuff? Like the towels?
Well, I saw Rex the Chief tweeted
Chief was
out.
going after Chris
Budden.
Chris Budden?
Yeah, Budden is how you say it. But he said sideline reporters need to be more informed.
Yeah.
But he was saying the coaches don't like wearing the rain gear, but they brought the rain gear. She kind of insinuated like they didn't have enough towels either.
I don't know how many towels you take to a game, but you would think like a game in Florida, everybody knows that it rains.
Well, and the weather report said that all week said that rain was expected.
Oh, did it really?
The day, yeah.
It shocked me today when I saw it raining. I was like, oh, I didn't even know.
Well, and I saw where Onukino, he lives in Orlando, and he walked out in his front yard. He lives 2 miles from the stadium, and it wasn't raining at his house.
Florida's so weird.
It's such a weird place.
It's such a weird place.
Well, like we'd go out to practices and stuff when OU's at a bowl game. Yeah. You drive through pouring rain,
and then
you get there and it was sunny.
When you get to the other side.
Yeah. Anyway, but no.
Hey, the dream's still alive anywhere but San Antonio. That's the big importance over tonight.
Fiesta.
I just don't know if they can get to a New Year's 6.
Why do you not think that? Dude, if they win the next 2 games, they're going to get a New Year's 6 bowl.
They're 10-2.
Even without playing in the Big 12.
Yeah.
You think?
100%.
Well, because
would you if
I don't think that Texas will get into the CFP.
they'll take 2 Big 12 teams will make
they have the Cotton and the Fiesta.
in the Fiesta.
You don't think that it would go to the other team that played in the Big 12 championship?
No, if
It's
9-3
OSU goes and
OSU,
loses.
yeah, 9-4 OSU's not getting in over a 10-2 OU.
Okay.
To the Cotton Bowl, because that's what it would be.
Yeah.
I think they'd end up in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
And they would much rather have OU there.
But does
than
it mess anything up if everybody goes undefeated? Like if it ends up being, which by the way, Alabama might win the national championship. I know Georgia beat the shit out of
Georgia
Ole
looks
Miss today.
really good.
But I think Bama's starting to play really well. The SEC championship should be incredible. Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it.
But wait, what were you going to say though? If what undefeated? I'm pretty positive.
If all four, if it's Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State winner, Georgia, Alabama winner, and I don't know who
Oregon, Washington.
Washington, I guess. I don't know if they can beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship again, but if all 4 of those teams went to the CFP, it wouldn't mess anything up.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure OU's going to get to New Year's 6
If
if
they
go
just
10
win
and
the
2.
next 2. Okay.
Yeah. And it also comes down to what the Bulls want fan base wise, and I would just think that the Cotton Bowl would want Oklahoma.
Wait, who are the playoff bowls this year?
Rose
and Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, so the SEC Big 12 sugar thing is not in existence this year.
I think they're going to go. If I had to guess right now, I would say they're going to play in the Cotton Bowl against like Tulane.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Dennis Dodd said Alamo Bowl. Dennis Dodd was living in
Oh my God.
October this week on Twitter.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, dude, do you have to realize there are a lot of games left to play?
Well, and it's just like people have been talking about that for like the last month.
Also, if USC keeps losing, they're not making the Alamo Bowl.
No.
Trust me, we've seen the defensive coordinator change. It gets a lot worse. It gets better, but then it gets worse.
And tonight was not good.
And it's going to be worse. I don't even know what.
Also, I would pick OU to beat the doors off of USC in a bowl game. Because I don't think Caleb Williams is going to play.
Right.
And 2, that defense is terrible.
OSU's didn't look that good today either.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have one thing to tell fans that are traveling to BYU. There is no alcohol or tobacco allowed on campus. There are no bars on campus.
I knew that.
Yeah, there's one bar you like downtown.
In Provo?
I don't know if it's a dump or not. I don't know. But this year, since they joined the Big 12 and wanted to be kind of BLC a little bit, they designated an off-campus tailgating area where you can go and get sloshed, and then a transit bus will take you to the stadium.
It's amazing.
But just know, if you're going to BYU, it's going to be a dry weekend for you probably.
No, you could drink in Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
And you can get boozed. Well, I don't know if you can get boozed up before the game at 8 a.m. I'd applaud you if you do.
At Bernie's or whatever the bar is.
Where's that? Is that in Utah?
I mean, I'm just saying, whatever the name of the one bar is.
In Provo?
Yeah.
I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people going out there just because it's the only time you'll ever get the chance to do so.
Yeah.
Our favorite person's going, Eddie.
I know. Can't wait to see Barb. Shout out Barb.
Shout out Barb. My brother's going too.
Oh, okay.
He's flying down,
Very nice.
going to
it. Okay. It is now past 3 a.m. Is there anything that you guys want to throw out there that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so.
I've had a
good
great
night.
weekend.
Really good bounce back.
It's great to see how happy Dillon Gabriel was in the post game after that.
It just
great 24-minute session he did on Monday, but still, you just felt like he needed a
I
hug.
also want to say there was a lot of people knocking him for his comments this week about when I asked him like how's the team responded. They're like, and he said, I don't know. We'll see on Saturday. That's just Dillon's personality. Like he's just very subdued, and I don't think it was in a way that's like, I don't know, I don't care. It was like I don't know, we're going to find out about what this team's
it was
made
almost
of.
like a challenge.
Yeah, and obviously they responded well.
Yeah, they did. And that was big for me. I know that we talked about it on the opponent preview. Just wanting to see how they were going to respond after giving up the way that they lost the last 2 weeks. And then West Virginia going down and taking the opening kickoff. Like,
Yeah.
I think everybody thought, like, oh, shit.
Did you see on the sideline after that, Stutsman and Brent had a very spirited conversation?
Well, after the game, Danny said that he had busted the 33-yarder. He busted coverage in that, and I think
he didn't like the running back. They lost contain on the edge, and the running back just bounced it outside, and Danny got caught up in the trash trying to get over the top of the middle, and that's what he was yelling him at. And like I could see Danny was like,
two fiery personalities.
Yeah. And Danny was arguing back like, well, if this happens, I'm supposed to do this, so why are you yelling at me for doing that? Like, but I think that's what Brent is. I mean, he's a guy that he's not doing it to be personal.
Sure.
He's going to love him up after the game is over, after the play's over, after he played well, after he led the team.
I mean, just look at how the linebackers are playing. We talked about the 4 linebackers. They're playing really well. You know who runs that practice.
Yeah.
Brent's also so good at in-game adjustments. Like, he's really good at that defensively.
It was a really good night.
Great night.
A lot of
night.
fun.
Great
Good night for
weekend.
Jeff Lebby.
Great to see the Chiefs trio back in the stadium. Blake Bell, Creed Humphrey,
I saw
James
Creed
Winchester.
at the Jones Assembly Friday night.
I was talking to him. I was talking to Creed tonight.
Chatted for a minute.
And it's just truly amazing to see like how massive of a man he has turned into.
He shook my hand at Jones Assembly, and we chatted for just a second, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, his hand is just like...
He's just massive.
Engulfs
He's
my
a
hand.
massive human.
He just came in a time like he was the baby of that Joe Moore,
Yeah.
offensive line.
Yeah.
Like we just didn't really get to. We'd seen like Orlando Brown and all those guys. We didn't really get to appreciate how good he was going to be.
I'll always remember going to that first game of his senior year over at Shawnee, and he had played a lot of guard as a junior. He moved to center. He couldn't snap the ball. Like, the ball would not get off the ground. It's just funny that he's one of the best centers in the league now.
Yeah.
Blake Bell, all-time Sooner.
That's
All
another
time.
just
Man
everything
crush.
about Blake
Bulldozer.
Bell is
Blake
just
Bell's
large.
the Bulldozers. the best.
I loved
James
the Bulldozer
Winchester's
when I
been
was a
in the
kid.
league now for like 14 years.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Eskridge Lexus Post Game Podcast. We'll be back next week. We'll get it out a little bit early because it's a 10 a.m. kickoff locally, 11 o'clock our time.
Unbelievable.
And Sooners, they moved to 8-2. The race to 10-2 is officially on. You can have some hope again. So I'm glad that they won it. I'm glad for you guys listening that you got to see a win and could get out of this lost drought. So congrats to you. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast. Don't forget, coming up this week, we'll have all the YouTube shows. Monday, we'll have Josh's recruiting roundup. Tuesday, we'll have the practice report. Wednesday, the unofficial 40. Thursday,
I think at
the
some
game day
point we're
preview.
probably going to break in a little basketball stuff with Bob, too.
Yes, we're trying to do that.
2-0. They won by 40 on Friday night. And, it's still so early with those guys, but they look really good so far.
And it's time for people to get to kind of know what they've got
Sure.
to look forward to. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back again next week right here on the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast from Soonerscoop.com.